but with his tactics shows that he is weaker and weaker. His assumptions were wrong. He was hoping that by attacking civilian infrastructure, he will win the hearts and minds of Ukrainians, which obviously is not the case. And the Ukrainians really hate him, and they will be willing to defend their country even more today.
Now, the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak served a Christmas dinner to soldiers in Estonia today and commended them for what he called their selfless service and bravery in a year when the world has been rocked by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He visited them with his Estonian counterpart, Kaja Kallas, on a tour of the Baltic states. He was hosting a meeting of the Joint Expeditionary Force. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the gathering via video link, appealing for a wide range of weapons systems. Rishi Sunak urged European leaders to stand firm in their support for Ukraine.
Meeting here today with our Northern European partners and allies is so important. It was great to hear from President Zelensky about their needs, and the UK has played a leading role in providing Ukraine with the military support that they require to repel Russian aggression and indeed push back and regain the territory which is rightfully theirs. That was a topic of our conversations here today. I'm pleased to say that there's widespread support amongst our Northern European allies to continue supporting Ukraine. We stand united in that motivation. Our resolve is strong, and Zelensky and Ukraine will continue to get the support that they need. It's something that the United Kingdom and everyone in it should feel enormously proud of, the part that we've played.
Well, earlier I spoke to Riho Terras, who's a former commander of the Estonian Defence Forces and currently an MEP for his country. I started by asking him about the significance of the visit by Rishi Sunak to Estonia.
Well, it is important to show to Estonian public that the UK is taking commitments which they have taken in Madrid seriously, and by allocating a brigade to Estonia, and then personally coming to visit its troops and Estonia, I think it is very significant.
Yeah, we've seen some pictures of Rishi Sunak serving up a bit of Christmas dinner to the British troops there. But those British soldiers, the number that based there in Estonia is due to be reduced, isn't it?
Well, yes, that is according to the plan as far as I know. But at the same time, the British Army is helping to build up our division structures and has allocated a full brigade to cooperate in Estonia, to have exercises together in the region, etc. So I think that is what we need here in the difficult times as Ukraine still fighting the war with Russia.
And how important is it having those British troops stationed there in Estonia? Because I think they've also, haven't they, been involved in training exercises with your Estonian forces?
They are permanently exercising inside our brigade structure. So they are actually quite organic part of our infantry brigade, and I think these decisions made by NATO to increase the security on the eastern border are very important for the whole region, but not only, even for the NATO, because the security is not just about Estonia, it's about the whole Europe.
Yes, because he's been meeting other leaders today in that part of Eastern Europe. And do you see this visit as a sign of Britain's and the new Prime Minister's commitment to continuing to support the efforts to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia?
Well, I have no doubt that the British Prime Minister is supporting the commitments already taken. We have worked together with UK many years, fighting war in Helmand province in Afghanistan together. Our soldiers were standing side by side. So it is important that he shows that, but we have trust in our allies and I hope that our allies trust us as well.
We've seen President Putin today meeting the leader of Belarus. There is a lot of concern about what the next tactics from the Russian forces will be. How much concern is there in Estonia, where you are so close to this war, about the threat from Russia?
Well, I should remind you that Tallinn is exactly the same distance from Kiev as Berlin. So we are not closer to the war than the Germans are, and especially close are the Poles. But I don't separate it. The threat is not to us. The threat is to democratic values of Europe and NATO, and we need to defend them here in place. But we are not worried. We need to support Ukraine, and we need to ramp up our support military capability with military capabilities to Ukraine, because Ukrainians are able to win this war if they have enough weapons and enough ammunition.
As this war grinds on through the winter, and we know that it's very difficult indeed for so many people in Ukraine, particularly with the power cuts caused by Russian attacks on the energy infrastructure. But there are wider effects, aren't there? And are you concerned about war fatigue, as it's been called, that perhaps some countries across other parts of Europe may tire of the need to continue spending money and resources to support the Ukrainian efforts?
Honestly, there's been many talk about it, but I have not seen it. I've been to many different countries in the last couple of months, talking to the people, and I have not seen that fatigue, because the atrocities of Russia, which they conduct in Ukraine, if you look at Bucha or Irpin or wherever, are so ugly that people understand that they need to support Ukraine. I really do hope that this support, we can still support Ukraine with more weapons and, of course, with money as well.
And because of the power cuts, we're hearing about more Ukrainian citizens who've decided to leave the country, perhaps for a while, because of the difficulties of withstanding the cold winter. Are you seeing more Ukrainian refugees there in Estonia?
Yes, Estonian population has increased 3% in the last 6 months because of we are receiving the Ukrainians, but we are welcoming them very much and supporting them, because Estonians understand how difficult it is. But believe me, Ukrainians are tough people, and they will survive, and they will win this war. They are able to win this war for sure.
You sound very confident about that. You think that despite the fact that President Putin seems to be resorting to different tactics, now these attacks on energy infrastructure, do you think that President Putin can be defeated?
Well, that he's using different tactics and not succeeding but with his tactics shows that he is weaker and weaker. His assumptions were wrong. He was hoping that by attacking civilian infrastructure, he will win the hearts and minds of Ukrainians, which obviously is not the case. And the Ukrainians really hate him, and they will be willing to defend their country even more today.
Well, that was Riho Terras, MEP for Estonia and a former commander of his country's defence forces, speaking to me a little earlier after Rishi Sunak's visit there, talking to what's known as the Joint Expeditionary Force, involving a lot of those Eastern European nations. And he, of course, urged European leaders to stand firm in their support for Ukraine.